PFP family, I'm here with the one and only, the beloved Coach Peter Alexis, and I really do mean that. In just, how many months you been here now?
6.
In 6, what?
Yeah,
Time flies, dude.
I know, right?
For real. No, but just in 6 months, you guys know, the ones that are here at PFP working out with Peter, the whole PFP family just loves you. And what I want to do is, this is the CoachSpiration series, and so part of the purpose of this is actually to inspire other coaches out there who are burnt out, who are tired, who need that little boost. We're going to be talking about why Peter got into the coaching business. You're going to probably learn stuff about him you don't know yet. I'm going to probably learn stuff about him that I don't know yet. But I do know that he's an Eagles fan, and so that's really all that matters in life. But we won't go there. We won't talk football today. Well, we might. Why don't you just start by just kind of giving everyone just your background on high school, college, how you ended up here, your sports journey, your athletic journey, and then we'll go from there and see where the wind takes us.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm originally from Northeast Pennsylvania, the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton area. Mm-hmm. I went to Holy Redeemer High School. It formerly was Bishop Hogan High School, but a bunch of Catholic schools merged in our area. Okay. High school, I played basketball, was mostly my main sport, and then volleyball, football, ran track and field as well for a little bit.
Why on earth would you think that you could succeed at basketball? I'm curious.
I just gave it a shot. Some people said, why not try
tall today, right? Get as tall as Peter. Okay, keep going.
But yeah, so did my 4 years of high school there. I was recruited to play a bunch of places, Division I basketball. I ended up at Penn State main campus. Fell in love with Happy Valley, fell in love with the culture down there.
Yeah.
Coaching situation wasn't really working out for me my freshman year, so I ended up redshirting and then transferring out to Philadelphia University, where I was able to play for Hall of Fame coach Herb McGee. He taught me everything you could possibly imagine knowing about basketball while I was there.
Okay.
So I was able to finish out my other 4 years at Phil U.
Yep.
Played overseas for a little bit as well. Played in Holland, the Republic of Georgia, and then Poland for a few seasons.
Okay.
And then played for a semi-professional team for a few years back in the States up in Wilkes-Barre.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you were playing overseas, how many years did you play?
3.5 technically.
3.5?
Yeah.
Okay. What was that like?
It was an experience. You definitely get the different cultures playing around the different countries. It's not kind of like here where state to state there are small changes, but like everyone's an American. Like you can kind of get a feel for everyone.
Yeah.
It's like Georgians are completely different than the Dutch, and they're completely different from the Polish.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely like that culture shock was a big kind of thing.
Were you like, from what I've heard, people that have played overseas, you kind of become a celebrity. Like in America, you might not be a celebrity if you're like on the bench of a professional team, but if you go over there, it's like sometimes you're like kind of a big deal.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. And probably not mostly because I was 7 feet tall, literally standing out. But
were you always the tallest guy on the team playing overseas?
I had one season where I had someone who was like 7'1", so he's a little bit taller than me.
Got it.
But yeah, like everybody in the local cities know who you are, and like they'll stop you, they'll talk to you, they'll like ask about the last game, the next game.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your favorite place to live and to play?
To play, it was probably Georgia, but then to live, it was Poland.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like heavily Polish. Like most of my mom's side is Polish, and then I have some on my dad's side as well.
Okay.
So yeah, it was kind of fun seeing the culture that like my grandma would talk about a lot. So
yeah, that's really neat. Was that intentional? You wanting to go there, or was that just kind of what fell in your lap, and it just happened to be that it was a place? Yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of fell that way.
That's cool. So you got to remind me. I want to talk about Herb McGee. I want to talk about. Because he was the only coach you mentioned so far in your career. Would you say he was the most impactful?
So college was he was an amazing coach. I would tie him with my high school coach, Mark Belinsky, as well.
Okay.
They both were just trying to raise outstanding young men, they were taking us into a culture and trying to build us up in more ways than just through sports.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. So we should stay there for a minute. So what are some of those things that you remember, either high school or college? Like, what are some of the things you remember early on that made a really big impact on you and maybe have shaped how you've become the coach that you've become today for so many?
So really just kind of, on the sports side, really just like thinking like the mental game of everything. Like it is just a game at the end of the day, but it's also like you're playing the game within the game. Like you're managing yourself. You're not letting everything that's happening around you affect you, like the crowd or the opposing team or any kind of runs that might happen.
Yep.
You're still trying to play on that even keel. But then as well, talking about especially Coach Belinsky, like he was trying to bring us up in a way where basketball wasn't like the be all end all. Like we still had goals kind of outside of
That
just
was
the
your high
sport.
school coach, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I mean, Herb just kind of treated us like we were his kids a little bit, you know. Yeah, like just inviting us over to his house, like for football games and stuff like that, and just doing those little things and trying to build up the culture of like a brotherhood of college sports, kind of.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite memories from either high school or college basketball playing under these coaches? What are some of the things that come to your mind most? Is there a particular game that was incredible, or is it a series of things that were just really impactful for you?
I mean, positive and negative. The one time in college, we blew a 20-point lead on the road, and the bus ride home was just dead silent. If anybody said a word,
We all know how that feels.
He would just whip around and just like stare at us until we stopped talking.
Oh my god!
And then when we got back, there was just this hour to hour and a half long speech about how if we were a professional team, we all would have been cut.
Nice.
So that was one of the ones where it was just
That was college or high school?
That was college.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. But just like the memories, so basketball team in college, we didn't have a chance to really go home for winter break. We would get a week off for Christmas.
Yeah.
But we were there in the dorms, and they shut down a majority of the housing on campus. So we all had to cramp into either the freshmen stayed in the dorms, or the upperclassmen had to cramp into a 5-bedroom townhouse.
Okay.
So like sleeping on air mattresses and couches, and just kind of like those memories of get up for practice, go get like breakfast or lunch after practice, and then we're hanging out in the townhouse for the whole day. And that's just kind of like those days stand out a lot. And then on the road trips as well, just like the Applebee's or all like the 2 for $20s, like those are always just like the memories that like
2 for $20s, PFP. If you're a PFP guest, that's not an invitation, but
yeah, it's just like those like little things on the road that like we used to do and we just make the most out of.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I've told you this multiple times. When you first came into PFP and I started seeing you on the coaching floor, I thought that you had been doing this for at least a decade, and you haven't, right? You've been doing it for a few years, 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, this is my 4th year, yeah.
4th year. And you're just an incredible coach. The way that you train people, the way that you connect with them, and the way that you help them get results, it really is, like, you can tell you were meant to do this. But how did you figure it out? How did you, after college, or was it during college, that you realized, like, I want to be in the fitness industry, I want to be on the strength and conditioning side? Like, how did you get to this part of your journey?
So I always had a little bit of an affinity for coaching, going back to high school too.
Coaching in general, or coaching fitness and training?
Mostly, so it started off in sports. So there was this, it was like a stay-away camp that I would go to for, it used to be just with my dad. It was like a father-son weekend thing, like go out in nature. Like there's just cabins, no real technology. Yeah.
That's so cool.
And the same place ran basketball camp as well for like a week long, like same thing. Like you drop your kids off, they're there for the whole week.
Okay.
And I started there as a camper, and eventually as I got older, I started being a counselor, and each counselor had their own like team per se. So like I'd be in charge of these 10 to 12 kids for the week. Like they'd be my team. Like I would coach them up through drills. Like we do skills competitions, and then like we play towards like the end of the afternoon, end of the night. And like it was just that moment where I saw that even like the like lower level quote unquote kids, like you can still see them attain their goals. And like just like that little like it flipped a switch for me almost. It's like I see these kids like wanting to work hard, and like the harder I worked for them, the harder they would work for me. I just like saw that, and that flipped a little bit of a switch in me. And then for like when I was back with my high school, we had to do so many like service hours for like being a Catholic school, and I would work with our girls volleyball team, mostly predominantly with the freshman girls.
Okay.
And I was essentially assistant coaching with the head coach there, and just again like working with them like through their drills and seeing them get better day to day, week to week, like throughout the whole season. I was just like, this is kind of cool. And then fast forward to college, like Penn State, we had everything like laid out, like our strength and conditioning coaches were there, and everything was there for us. But then transferring to Philadelphia U, it was a D2 program. So our strength and conditioning was a little bit looser. Our one assistant coach, Jimmy Rowley, did a phenomenal job with our conditioning and stuff. Like we'd be in there 6 a.m. like just grinding in preseason.
Yep.
But then the lifting end was a little bit more on us.
Okay.
And that's where I really started to fall in love with like the programming and the lifting and everything, because then I would sit there on my weekends and plan out my next 4 weeks of lifts, and I'd have to look at in-season, off-season, preseason, like that kind of stuff, like and how to recover properly and how to shape my body to swing with these ebbs and flows of in-season, off-season.
Okay. Okay.
And the same thing for overseas too. Like we would kind of have a coach, but we would only really do it like 1 or 2 days a week. So
Yeah.
the other days were on us really. So that helped me delve a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was done playing overseas, I got back. I started doing personal trainings for basketball, and then I got in with an elementary school in Wilkes-Barre.
Okay.
Started coaching 7th and 8th grade girls basketball, and I was like, I can get deeper into this. Like I'm doing the skills training right now, but I can really work with the whole athlete.
Got it.
Which pushed me to get my certification for strength and conditioning and start going down that rabbit hole.
And then keep
And then-
going. Like how did it lead to you started training at a place in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah. So I started a similar facility to PFP. Like
Yeah.
there are similarities, but there are differences as well.
Sure.
So I started working out there.
Did you know once you got into it and once you got hired and you started doing this, you were like, wow, I love this?
Yeah, so even before I got hired, before I got my certification, I was in conversation with the owner.
Okay.
And I was like interning a little bit. And once I really got into the nitty gritty, I was like, I just love this.
Mm-hmm. What do
Yeah.
you love most about it?
When someone reaches one of their goals, like if I have a kid, an adult, like anybody who says like, I want to get to this on my squat, I want to get this time on my run, I want to get this on that. When I see them get it, and I just see that look in their eyes of like, I did it. I was like, I knew you could do it the whole time.
And that happens, obviously, it happens often as, you're a great coach, so you help people get their goals often. But if you think about a 30, 35-hour training week, out of that 30 to 35 hours, maybe 30 minutes of it is multiple people accomplishing that goal.
Yeah.
So how do you stay, again, like what is it that keeps you motivated and excited during those other 30 to 32 hours a week where the fruit's not there, the people aren't necessarily accomplishing it? Like what is it for you that keeps you so fired up about what you do? Because part of this is there's going to be coaches that watch this, there always are, and they're burnt out, right? They got into their coaching, whether it's sports coaching or strength conditioning, they get into it, they kind of forgot why, we'll talk about that in a minute, but they're missing like that juice that they once had. So what is it that keeps you motivated?
So yeah, I mean, you talk about like let's just say 30 hours a week, and you might see 6 people a session. So you might be working with 180 people on any given week.
Sure.
One person, 2 people might hit their goals. So
Yep.
it's falling in love with the process. So it's the goals and hitting the goals. And when someone hits a big weight or a great time or like loses a bunch of weight, like that's awesome. Like celebrate with them in that moment. But it's falling in love with the process of there are going to be these ebbs and flows, and you're going to have to work through these people like with the struggles, with the roadblocks, with the walls sometimes that they have to even try to run through, and just really working through that.
Yeah.
And even when that starts getting frustrating is just knowing your limits and kind of knowing when you need that like mental rest and step back and knowing how to kind of manage your off days a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a good like reframe and thing it's good to think about, just because when you're celebrating those clients that hit their goals, you're not really celebrating the goal at the end of the day. You're celebrating because you know that you were with them and you saw them on the journey.
Yep.
So you're really celebrating the journey even when you celebrate the goal, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? And it's just so powerful because if you can do it for a day, then you can reach a goal, right? Because it's just like every day you show up and it's like, I did it today.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow you show up and you do it again.
Yeah.
And so like helping be that catalyst for a person, I feel like is what keeps a lot of coaches who, again, they make it long term in this industry is because they fall in love with the process of watching their clients, right, do the thing. So what is your, and you probably alluded to it, last 2 questions, what is your why?
So really, I want to pay it forward because I've had these coaches like Mark Belinsky, like Herb McGeehan, like their assistant coaches as well, like Jimmy Riley, Paul Guido, like these people.
We'll tag them on this post, by the way.
There's just these people that have tried to push me to the best that I can be, not only as a basketball player but as a man as well. And I want to pay that forward to people because I want to see people become the best that they can be, even if they don't think they can get to that level, and not just from a gym lifting athlete standpoint, just seeing people try to become this person that they should be. You know?
Well, I'll tell you, you undoubtedly, there are generations beyond this one. I hope you know this. 3rd, 4th generations that 150 years from now, the work that you are doing right now, and I mean this because I see you out there, like people's lives are going to be impacted positively because of what you do day in and day out in here, because you do it with so much passion, man. and you're just so great at what you do. So remember that too, right? It's not just about this generation. It's about sowing seeds for future generations. So my last question, and this is maybe more for the coach that is struggling right now, that's burnt out, that's like lost connection with their why. What do you say to them?
Take a step back and look at the whole picture, really. Like, why do you want to do this? I mean, we kind of talked about it a little bit in like kind of general meetings of just, are you really doing it for like financial reasons or like those kinds of reasons, or are you doing this because you love to do it and really want to see people get better? Like, I can name all the athletes that I've like, and adult clients too, like that I don't work with anymore, that I just like love truly and dearly, like with all my heart. And I still check in on them, like try to fall in love with that process of you're trying to help these people get to a better spot. And if you're feeling burnt out, because I was there, we talked about burnout last week and we had to share our personal stories as coaches. I was at a point where I was working 7 days a week and I was burning myself out and I was in a bad place mentally and physically as well. And it was just one of those things where set your limitations to really recharge yourself so you can pour that energy into other people.
That's good too, because we live in an all or nothing mindset society that glorifies and celebrates grinding and hustling to the point of exhaustion. And like as a coach, you can't do that because you're pouring out of your cup all day long.
Yeah.
And you got to have some way to fill it back up, right? So
exactly.
That's really good advice, man. All right, here's a fun question then on who is an athlete that you would just, if you could pick any athlete, alive or dead, to connect with, to have lunch with, to talk with, who would it be?
It would be Kobe. I mean, I said this. He's not my favorite athlete. That's a different list. But just like mindset, mentality-wise, just someone who I would want to dissect from that kind of standpoint. Like I would love to get
crawl in his brain,
his wisdom, his mentality of just like, I don't know if you've ever heard of stories of some of his teammates now that they're like interviewing more and more after he passed away.
I haven't.
They talk about his blackout workouts.
Okay.
Where they'd start at 5 a.m. They'd go till they couldn't go anymore. They'd go like take a nap, get some breakfast. They'd do that in like 4 or 5 cycles in a day. And they would just do it every single day they had like practice or workouts or whatever. They would do that for the whole day.
Work hard but recover harder, right? Like I'm sure they had. Well, they got the best care in the world, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They probably had the greatest recovery. But that's what, a blackout workout?
Yeah, that's what they would
Sounds
call
terrible.
it. I know, right?
You guys have it good here if you're a PFP client, right? There are no blackout workouts. Well, good stuff. Man, I appreciate you again so much. Thanks for sharing. Hopefully you guys got to learn something new about Coach Peter. And, man, keep crushing it. Keep doing your thing.
Thank you.
Much love, brother.
Appreciate it.
Yep. See you guys soon on the next episode. Peace.
See ya.